This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Prime. In association with Micromax. Nothing like anything.
Hello and welcome to this special program where we have a really special guest, Sadhguru. It's always a pleasure to be in conversation with you. On Gandhi Jayanti, it's time to really turn our attention to peace. Peace, a commodity that is increasingly tough to come by.
Because it's not a commodity, you don't find it in the marketplace. It's within you, it's the way you are. So if one does not learn how to be within himself or herself, trying to find it either in the marketplace or in mountain caves or meditation is not going to happen. Essentially, what you call as peace, if you want to understand it in a very simple way, is it's a certain kind of chemistry. Let's say if someone loses his peace today, first thing that happens is usually the family gets the first dose of his lack of peace. If it continues, then maybe the neighbors will get it. If it continues, he may go and yell at his boss. When someone starts yelling at his boss, everybody around knows he needs medical help. So medical assistance means what? Initially, they try to talk you out of it, generally it doesn't work. So the next thing is a pill. A pill means a certain amount of chemicals. If you take these chemicals, at least for a limited period of time, one does become peaceful. Or in other words, what you call as peace is a certain chemistry. What you call as joy is another kind of chemistry. Misery is another kind of chemistry. Stress is another kind of chemistry. Joy, ecstasy is one kind of chemistry, agony is another kind of chemistry. Or in other words, every human experience has a chemical basis to it.
I remember you once saying, and I was struck when you said it, that you can't change the world around you. You can't change the way people are going to be with you.
Outside will never happen 100% your way. It will happen to some extent your way. Depending upon your capability to manage the outside, your competence and skills, outside will happen to some extent. If your activity is limited just to your home, maybe 90% will happen your way, 10% doesn't happen your way. If your activity spreads, let's say to the city, then you will find 90% will not happen your way. If your activity is global, then you will see only a very small percentage will happen your way. So depending upon your capability, competence, your ability to create things, you make a few things happen your way, but never ever will it happen 100% your way outside. This is the nature of the world and that's how it should be. Because everything happens your way, what will happen to me?
Right.
Everything should not happen your way. It happens to… one piece happens your way, one piece happens my way, that's the world. You are not happening the way you want yourself to be, that is the problem. If you were happening 100% the way you want yourself to be, would you keep yourself blissful or miserable? The choice is very clear. If that was happening, every human being should be blissful and peaceful.
A lot of the pleasantness or unpleasantness comes from within you.
See, the entire human experience comes from within you. Whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, it's generated from within you. There may be stimuli from outside, for which you react in pleasant manner or in unpleasant manner, but if you had the necessary freedom within you to respond the way you want, you would always respond pleasantly. So what you call as stress, anger, resentment, everything, these are poisons that you drink and you expect somebody else to die. Life doesn't work like that.
So to that extent, it's in your hands and
Yes,
in your hands to master the technology.
Absolutely.
But when you look at the outside world today, are you somewhat concerned about the state that the world seems to be in? ISIS, the Middle East, people shooting each other, beheading people on television?
They have been beheading people all the time. Now it's on television. It's on television means it's in our sitting room or bedroom, worse, maybe even in the dining room for many people. So these beheadings have entered your home, that's why we seem to be concerned. We shouldn't wait till it comes to our home. What is the basis of these things? The fight in the world is not between good and evil as people try to project it. It's always one man's belief versus another man's belief. So this is the essence of spiritual process, that you are not subscribing to a particular belief or any particular belief for that matter. No philosophy, no ideology, no belief system. You pay attention to life. If you pay enough attention to life, one thing that you will realize is, you do not know much about this existence, you do not know much about this creation, you do not even know a single atom in its entirety with all this science that we have. So if you realize, I do not know, if you're in a constant state of attention to everything around you, you will always be conscious that you do not know much in this universe. If you are in a state of I do not know, you cannot fight with anybody. Only if you're in a state of I know it, this is the truth because I believe this, then there is a fight. The moment you believe something, whatever it is, whether it's religious or otherwise, the moment you believe something, what it means is, you are unwilling to admit that you do not know. So, beheadings, killings, all kinds of cruelty that we have imparted upon each other as human beings is mainly because I believe one thing, you believe something else. It may be religious or otherwise.
That's also the reason why sometimes people say that a lot more evil has been done in the name of religion than for many other reasons.
No question at all about that, because if you do something stupid today in your life, for some reason you did something stupid, the nature of your intelligence is such that tonight it will bother you. Why did I do this? This is the nature of human intelligence. But if your stupidity is scripture endorsed or God endorsed, worse, then you can do idiotic things without ever turning back and looking, what am I doing? With great confidence. This has happened through the history, through many centuries. But today, human intellect has come to a place where a large mass of people have received some form of education, which is for the first time. It's the first time in the history of humankind that so many people are educated as they are today. Still there are many more to be educated, that's different, but never before this many numbers were educated, had access to information, access to the world, never before. Now this has come and intellect has opened up to a certain level. In this generation we have to strive that it's time that we move from believing something to striving to know something, whatever that we want to know.
One of the other things, of course, that's happening now, and I just wanted to get your sake of it, some people say that we're on a sort of a race constantly to improve our material conditions. You know, we must develop, we must get more and more material possessions. Side by side, there's now a technological thing that you must have the best and the latest technology surrounding you constantly.
This is the whole world borrowing the American dream. 4% of the world's population is consuming 50% of the world's resources. This is not a practical solution to the world. This has happened because we believe that by fixing the world, we are going to be okay. Compared to how the world was, how the external situations were 100 years ago, today if you look at it, compared to any generation on this planet, we know more comforts and conveniences than anybody else. But can we claim we are peaceful or joyful as a generation of people? Definitely not. I'm not saying there's something wrong with us, it is just that if you want money, you go to the marketplace. If you want well-being, you have to turn inward. You try to buy well-being in the marketplace, it's not going to work because it's not there.
But that also is the reason why even in today's day, a lot of people then turn to try and find meanings in other ways, whether it's religion, whether it's spirituality. That's having its own impact that, for example, there's been a lot of so-called gurus or godmen who've become really discredited, and that's… I wonder if you're concerned about that. Some of the people who go and portray themselves as godmen get people to follow them, and then a lot of what follows is not always very good or benign.
See, the general integrity in the country has fallen, has come down dramatically. So, you find spurious doctors, spurious lawyers, spurious journalists, spurious gurus, every kind. Corruption has seeped into every dimension of our life. When we are in a place where, with our own children, between a boy and a girl, you feed one better and feed the other less, corruption has come into the home also. So, spurious parents, spurious gurus, spurious doctors, spurious every kind. So, general integrity has seriously fallen in the nation. This is something we need to establish. Why this has happened is, See, we need to understand India as a culture, we as Bharat, we have no moral codes in this country. We have no strong sense of morality, it's not there. We have always lived with human consciousness being stirred up from generation to generation, being conscious, being aware, we have lived well. But that dimension of life, that infrastructure, both human and material infrastructure that is necessary to raise human consciousness has gone down dramatically in the last 8 to 10 generations. At the same time, Indians can never adhere to strong sense of morality as it is in Western cultures where there's a strong moral code. We've never had a moral code. And this lack of moral code is not a bad thing. The best way to keep people on track is to stir up their humanity. Stirring up their humanity is to making them conscious. The only difference between a human being and an animal is what the animals do, the same things we are doing. It is just that we can conduct it consciously, they do everything compulsively. So, fixing it with morality is like a band-aid for a huge problem. But if you raise human consciousness, this problem will not exist. But it is a generation to generation work. It's not like morality, you can write it down on a stone and say, this is the code, moral code. Raising human consciousness is a constant work. Every one of us has to work with our children, with ourselves, with our neighbors, with everybody that we meet. In some way, if every one of us are concerned in some way, whoever you meet, you want to improve their life a little bit and your life a little bit with every effort, every step that you take in your life.
But I wonder whether it concerns you when you see the reports about some of the so-called godmen do. Many of them are actually in jail right now. It must be causing you some sense of concern that what are they doing?
See, it is particularly of concern when spiritual people who claim to be spiritual do this. Suppose today it's become like this, it need not be like this, but today it's become like this. If you go to a police station, you're almost expecting corruption.
Yeah.
But if you go to your doctor, you're expecting he is straight with you. But suppose your doctor is corrupt and deceives you, your hurt and pain about that is much deeper than something else that happens on the street. When you go to your spiritual guru, you're placing your life in his hands. If there is deception, the level of hurt and the level of damage that happens to you is far deeper. So depending upon… see, how clean your hands should be depends on what kind of work you're doing. There are some works, if your hands are not so clean, it's okay, but you are a surgeon, your hands better be clean because you're putting your hands into somebody's life. And being a spiritual teacher or a guru means just this, that you're really putting your hands into other people's lives, you better be really clean. Unfortunately, that cleanliness has been missing. Is it concern? I'm glad a few who have to be in prison are in prison. It's very important because the society needs to be cleaned up. If they're on the street, then it's a concern. If they are in a prison, whether it's a criminal or a guru or whoever it is, somebody in some way harms another life, they must be where they should be.
When you look around you in the country, it's actually quite shameful, the levels of dirt and the lack of hygiene that we are now starting to see.
And it's very good that the Prime Minister of the nation is addressing those so-called pedestrian issues